In Court Corner, Patanjali informing the Supreme Court that it's issued a public apology across 67 newspapers for misleading ads that were placed before. The court has asked if the apology was published prominently and asked why the ads have not been placed on record before the court. On your screens is the apology from Patanjali, published across various newspapers. The Supreme Court has adjourned the hearing to next week. Ashmit is here with more on the court action. Ashmit, the court asking Patanjali for details about the ads that have been placed, which are box items, nothing like the ads that were placed by the company. But more importantly, the court also bringing in issues related to the FMCG sector in totality.
Well, today is when the contempt hearing of Baba Ramdev had been scheduled, and just a day prior to that, Patanjali Ayurved had published advertisements in as many as 67 newspapers apologizing for its conduct, essentially conveying that it respects the dignity of the court as well as constitutional principles. However, the Apex Court had many questions. Number one, it asked why this was not placed on record. It was not available on the records of the Apex Court. Second, it asked how prominent these ads were and whether one would require a microscope to look at these advertisements. Third, the Supreme Court observed that if these advertisements are as big, as prominent, and have cost as much as the advertisements that Patanjali Ayurved had issued when publicizing its own products. So these are questions that Baba Ramdev as well as Patanjali Ayurved now have 1 week's time to get back to the Apex Court on. But that's not where the Apex Court stopped. The Supreme Court observed that it is not just looking at one particular entity, but the whole host of stakeholders when it comes to the issue of misleading advertisements. And to that end, even made a reference to the vast pool of FMCG companies, saying that the Supreme Court has been going through recent reports of how products have been issued for babies and for children, and how these products have been misleading, and that is something that the Apex Court will be looking into. Not just that, the Supreme Court also pulled up the centre on inaction, on not taking enough measures to combat these misleading advertisements. That is again something that the centre will have to reply on. And finally, on the conduct of the doctors themselves, the Supreme Court noting that there are allegations with respect to doctors indulging in unethical practices at the time of issuance and prescribing of these medicines. That is also something that the Indian Medical Association will have to respond on. So clearly, the Apex Court widening the scope of these proceedings here.
Ashmit, many thanks.